across vast distances, through steel, through silence, through the pulse of a nation's arteries. Something extraordinary is moving.
Wow, quite the opening line.
Isn't it? It continues. It's not just cargo, it's not just commerce, it's the future delivered. That's how Gate Xpress, NGX, starts their video.
Paints a big picture, definitely. Sounds like they're aiming high.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to, dive into today, how they plan to change things in freight and logistics.
Right. So we're basically digging into NGX, using their own stuff, their solutions overview, their tech innovation docs, that video script you mentioned, and something called the Gamma framework.
Yep. Think of this as the quick way to get up to speed on what they're all about.
Sounds good. So the goal is to figure out what problems NGX sees in logistics today.
And how they're planning to use technology and this Gamma thing to fix them.
Right. For anyone listening who's interested in where logistics is headed or how AI and blockchain are actually being used.
Or maybe just curious about how big industries change.
Yeah.
Hopefully this conversation will give you those aha moments without getting bogged down in, super technical details.
Let's do it. So, where do we start? What are the big issues NGX is zeroing in on?
Well, the first thing that jumps out is their core idea. Transparency, speed, security.
Yeah.
They say these aren't extras anymore.
They're baseline requirements. That's a strong statement. It implies the current way of doing things maybe isn't cutting it.
That seems to be the suggestion, yeah. They flat out say, every shipment we move is logged, verified, and protected by the immutable chain.
Okay, immutable chain. That's blockchain language, right? So they're saying traditional tracking and security might be vulnerable or just not as trustworthy.
It seems that way. That word immutable is key, isn't it? Meaning it can't be changed after the fact.
Exactly. That immutability, it's a huge deal. Think about disputes, right? Like, who's responsible if something arrives damaged? If you have an unchangeable record of the shipment's journey, maybe even its condition logged by sensors along the way, it makes resolving those disputes way easier, or should, anyway.
Provides a single source of truth, kind of. Okay, so that's security and verification, but they also talk about participation, rewards.
Yeah.
This GateCoin, GTC, what's that about?
Yeah, that's another interesting angle. They call GTC the first freight-native digital asset.
Freight native?
Meaning it's designed specifically for this industry. The idea seems to be creating, like, a mini economy.
How so?
Well, you can earn GTC through loyalty, apparently use it for discounts, maybe even lock it up to get priority service.
So it's not just paying for shipping, it's interacting with an ecosystem. They call it a living economy.
Right. It's definitely a different model than just competing on price. It tries to build loyalty and participation in a way you don't usually see in freight.
It does raise questions, though, like how easy is it to get people to adopt a new digital token like that?
That's a fair point. Adoption is always a hurdle with new tech, especially something like a digital asset in a, let's say, more traditional industry.
And then there's the tech itself. They mention an IoT-equipped fleet and AI-optimized routes. Sounds like they see room for improvement there, too?
For sure. IoT, Internet of Things, just means sensors and connectivity everywhere. On the trucks, maybe on the containers.
Giving them real-time data.
Exactly. Location, temperature, humidity, truck performance, you name it. That data feeds into everything else.
Like the AI for routes.
Precisely. AI can take all that real-time data, plus traffic, weather, whatever, and figure out the absolute best route, not just the shortest. And it can change it on the fly if conditions change.
Okay, that makes sense. More efficiency, faster deliveries, maybe.
That's the goal. And they bundle all these strategic ideas into this Gamma framework.
Right, the blueprint for transformation. Sounds ambitious.
It does, and they frame it as a response, saying, the world isn't waiting for change, it's demanding it.
Positioning themselves as the answer.
Pretty much. They're saying the industry needs a shakeup, and they're the ones to do it, guided by this Gamma plan.
Okay, so we've got a handle on the problems and their overall approach. Let's dig a bit deeper into those technologies. Blockchain seems absolutely central.
Yeah, they talk about achieving blockchain certainty. It's all about that trust and transparency we mentioned.
So every step, every scan, it goes onto this unchangeable ledger.
That's the idea. Logging, verifying, protecting, all on the chain. They even describe visuals like animated blockchain nodes syncing or trucks automatically scanning checkpoints.
Making it feel very real-time and automated.
Exactly. It's about creating that tamper-proof audit trail for the entire shipment lifecycle.
And what about the smart contracts they mentioned? How does that fit in?
Okay, so smart contracts are basically like automated agreements built on the blockchain.
So if X happens, then Y automatically triggers.
You got it. For example, if a sensor confirms the delivery was made and the temperature stayed correct the whole time.
The payment could be released automatically.
Exactly. No need for manual checks, fewer intermediaries, potentially faster payments. It streamlines things.
I can see how that would cut down on paperwork and potential arguments.
Yeah.
Okay, let's link that back to GateCoin, GTC. How does the token work with the blockchain?
Well, GTC likely is a token on their blockchain. It's the currency, essentially, for their living economy.
So the blockchain doesn't just track the boxes, it tracks the value, the rewards, the staking.
Right. All those GDC transactions, earning loyalty points, spending them on discounts, staking for priority, they all happen as secure transactions recorded on that same blockchain. It powers the economic layer.
Got it. Okay, moving on from blockchain, the IoT fleet. What's the real day-to-day advantage there?
It's about visibility and proactivity. Instead of finding out about a problem like a refrigeration unit failing after the fact.
The sensors tell you immediately.
Hopefully, yeah. Or they provide data for predictive maintenance so you fix the truck before it breaks down. Plus, customers get much more detailed, real-time updates on their shipment status and condition.
So, fewer surprises, better planning. And the AI routes, we touched on this, but it's more than just Google Maps for trucks. Right?
Oh, yeah. Think about all the variables. Traffic, sure, but also delivery windows, driver hours, fuel costs, road restrictions for certain types of cargo, even predicting potential delays. AI can juggle all of that constantly.
And adapt in real time if, say, a major accident closes a highway.
That's the promise. Dynamic rerouting based on live conditions to keep things moving as efficiently as possible. The visuals they describe show trucks navigating these optimized paths.
And the last piece of tech they mentioned was Oravolt. Something about sustainability.
Yeah, the Oravolt-powered network. They don't give a ton of detail on what Oravolt is specifically.
Proprietary tech, maybe?
Could be. But the key message is sustainability without compromise. It signals that being environmentally conscious is baked into their tech and operations, not just an add-on.
Okay, so a powerful tech stack overall. Now let's unpack that GAMA framework properly. GAMA, first G.
G is for go-to-market. They mention precision targeting and strategic alliances.
So not trying to boil the ocean, focusing their efforts.
Exactly. Identifying the right customers, the right partners to work with, especially when you're trying to break into an established market like freight. You need those key relationships.
Makes sense. What's the A?
A is for awareness. This is about content, community, and disruptive storytelling.
Disruptive storytelling.
Yeah.
So challenging the status quo. Yeah.
Telling a different story about logistics, not just we move stuff, but positioning themselves as innovators, building a community around their brand, maybe through content marketing, social media, that sort of thing.
Right. Getting people to buy into the vision, not just the service. First M.
M is for monetization. This links back to what we discussed. It's about revenue from real-world services, actually moving freight.
And the blockchain economy. So GateCoin plays a role in how they make money, too.
It seems so. Whether it's transaction fees within the ecosystem or the value GTC itself might hold, it's presented as part of their overall monetization strategy, a dual approach.
Interesting. Second M.
That M is for messaging, tailored to every client, every moment, every opportunity.
Personalization, basically.
Yeah, hyper-personalization almost. Understanding what each specific client needs and communicating the right information at the right time. Crucial in a service business.
Definitely. And the final A.
The last A is for adoption, and this one's quite ambitious. Building not just users, but believers, builders, and pioneers.
Wow. That's more than just customer acquisition.
Way more. It sounds like they want to foster a real movement, people who aren't just using NGX, but actively contributing to its growth, believing in the mission, maybe even helping build out the ecosystem further.
So GEMA is really their whole strategic playbook laid out.
Pretty much, from getting started to building the brand, making money, talking to customers, and ultimately creating a dedicated community.
And as we get towards their concluding messages, they really dial up the rhetoric, don't they? Rewriting the rules of logistics.
Logistics isn't just about moving freight, it's about moving history.
Yeah, it's big picture thinking.
Yeah.
They see themselves as fundamentally changing the game.
Elevating the importance of what they do.
Right. Framing it not just as a business service, but as something with, like, historical significance.
And that final call to action is quite direct. The world isn't waiting for change, it's demanding it. Gate Xpress is answering that call.
With power, with purpose, with proof. The gate is open. It's very assertive.
Followed by, are you ready to move with us? It's a clear invitation.
Absolutely. And the tagline sums it up nicely. Powering the future of freight, one block at a time, ties the vision right back to the core blockchain tech.
So, wrapping this up, what are the main takeaways? NGX sees major gaps in current logistics, transparency, security, efficiency.
And they're betting heavily on tech, blockchain, AI, IoT, integrated into a whole new economic model with GateCoin.
All orchestrated through that gamma strategy. It's a complex, interconnected vision. Definitely. The big aha for me is just how systemic their approach is. It's not piecemeal solutions. It's an attempt to rebuild the whole operating system for freight, you know?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. It really makes you think, doesn't it? About how these powerful technologies, AI and blockchain, could reshape other big established industries.
Absolutely. Where else could you apply this kind of thinking? What other parts of the supply chain or even completely different sectors like finance or healthcare are ripe for this sort of transformation?
And what are the knock-on effects? The benefits are clear efficiency, transparency, but what are the challenges? Job displacement, data privacy, the hurdles to widespread adoption.
Lots to think about there. It's never just plug and play with disruptions this big.
For sure. So NGX's pitch is clear. The gate is open, but the path ahead for transforming an industry like freight is likely complex. A final thought, perhaps?
Well, it's clear they're not just aiming to be another trucking company. They want to be the underlying platform, the infrastructure for a new era of commerce. It'll be fascinating to watch if and how they pull it off.